I gentili ospiti sono pregati di prendere posto a sedere. Si invita inoltre a verificare di avere disattivato i telefoni cellulari. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Please also check that your mobile phones are on silent mode. I gentili ospiti sono pregati di prendere posto a sedere. Si invita inoltre a verificare di avere disattivato i telefoni cellulari. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Please also check that your mobile phones are on silent mode. I gentili ospiti sono pregati di prendere posto a sedere. Si invita inoltre a verificare di aver disattivato i telefoni cellulari. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Please also check that your mobile phones are on silent mode. I gentili ospiti sono pregati di prendere posto a sedere. Si invita inoltre a verificare di avere disattivato i telefoni cellulari. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Please also check that your mobile phones are on silent mode. I gentili ospiti sono pregati di prendere posto a sedere. Si invita inoltre a verificare di avere disattivato i telefoni cellulari. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. Please also check that your mobile phones are on silent mode. Fa ingresso il Presidente della Repubblica. Ha inizio la sessione inaugurale della 10ª edizione dei Dialoghi Mediterranei. The President of the Italian Republic is entering the room. The opening session of the 10th edition of the Rome Mediterranean Dialogues is about to start.
President Mattarella, Vice President Tajani, Your Excellencies, distinguished ministers, esteemed colleagues and partners, honored guests, dear friends, buongiorno, and welcome to the 10th edition of Rome Mediterranean Dialogues, which is co-hosted by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and ISPI. Since its inception 10 years ago, and it was indeed another word, this conference has been dedicated to fostering dialogue and cooperation across the Mediterranean. Let's face it, this region is as historically rich and culturally diverse and fascinating as it is complex and troubled. This year, our mission is even more critical as we face mounting crises and uncertainties in the MENA region and the entire world. The Mediterranean and the broader Middle East are engulfed in conflicts that imperil the fabric of regional and international peace. Since the tragic attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, violence in Gaza and southern Lebanon has increased, resulting in tens of thousands of civilian casualties and regional escalation. This highlights how fragile peace is and underscores that dialogue, so often deferred, remains the only path to enduring stability. Over the next 3 days, the Rome Med Dialogues will bring together more than 200 speakers across 40 panels and 30 closed doors sessions. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is an invaluable opportunity for all of us, not only to exchange perspectives, but also to chart real paths towards reconciliation and cooperation. Of course, as we meet, cooperation is challenged by rising fragmentation and polarization. But division is a choice, not a destiny. And holding the Med Dialogues during such a challenging time is a choice as well. A choice that rebuild trust, reinforce international cooperation, and reaffirm our commitment to diplomacy, dialogue, and collective problem solving. Well, let me conclude by extending my deepest gratitude to all of you for your participation and commitment. To our sponsors and partners, there are many, for their precious contributions, and most of all, to the co-host of this initiative, the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. So, it is now my honor and pleasure to introduce Italy's Vice President of the Council of Ministers and Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Antonio Tajani. Please, the floor is yours.
Morning everybody, saluto e ringrazio il Presidente della Repubblica Sergio Mattarella.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank the President of the Italian Republic. His presence here confirms the importance of this event.
Il carattere strategico del Mediterraneo per la politica estera.
The strategic feature of the Mediterranean and its relevance has been reiterated in these dialogues. I would like to greet the foreign ministries of foreign affairs. I would like to thank the President of ISPI, Mr. Bruni, for its cooperation in the preparation of this important event. And I would like to thank the sponsors that have contributed to organizing this event. So welcome you all to Mediterranean Dialogues. This is a platform to foster dialogue. And this year, the Italian government has decided to host this event before the G7 to be held in Anagni and Fiuggi. In the session, the core of the discussion will be focused on Middle East and Ukraine, as well as the dialogue. It is extremely important to start cooperation with Arab countries in order to start cooperation dialogues that will bring peace. We will also deal with strategic partnerships. We will deal with Africa, and the key words of this event will be growth, peace, and development. I have wished to start the G7 session on the same day on which we celebrate the International Day Against Violence on Women. And I have decided to celebrate this occasion by shedding a light on the fight against violence. And in order to fight against violence, we will have to cooperate. As you all know, Middle East is facing war. As Pope Francis has said several times, we do not have to get used to war. This edition of Mediterranean Dialogues is to be considered as a platform for discussions with enterprises and public parties. We do not have to give up. We must not give up. We have to ensure the ceasefire. We have said to our friends in Lebanon to help us to ensure the cease of fire. We have reiterated our willingness to cooperate. We work in Lebanon with the support of our UNIFIL mission. We are present in those territories by means of armed missions to ensure peace. And our army is focused on bringing peace everywhere. And this is what we have reiterated to all the parties involved. Our army is there to ensure peace between Lebanon and Israel, and the attacks against them cannot be accepted. Gaza and Lebanon have been the focus of the G7 that was held in Pescara to discuss about development. This was a humanitarian discussion that brought together the representatives of Palestine and Lebanon with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which I would like to thank for accepting our invite. We want to reiterate that Italian government is aimed at ensuring dialogue. We cannot give up. We must not give up. We must be determined in our fight against war. And this meeting has always been recognized as an occasion to bring peace and dialogue. Thinking about Syria, where we have ambassadors working to ensure support to the population. We are working relentlessly to release hostages, to support the people with humanitarian aid because of that is suffering because of the attacks that it is facing. Italy is recognizing, is working to ceasefire and to have two people and two states in those areas. Italy is working with Food for Gaza. This is an important initiative of the Italian government that is guided by the President of the Italian Republic, who I would like to thank for his support in this initiative. This initiative actually supported our objective. I would like to thank Jordan for the support in the transfer of the means and food that we have sent and we have delivered to the Palestinian people. I would like to thank the organizations, enterprises that have participated by launching a solidarity campaign aimed at bringing solidarity and support to those people. From Brindisi, a new aircraft will leave to bring food to the Gaza area. The people working with us will remain in Gaza to support the humanitarian organization. Over the last couple of months, we have started creating bridges to welcome kids and women in our country. The conflict is spreading. Therefore, we are urging the European Union to take action to ensure the freedom of the use of sea. In fact, by guaranteeing the free use of the sea, in the Red Sea specifically, we will guarantee the transportation of goods that represents an important element for our Italian economy. Therefore, I would like to thank all my colleagues that helped me develop these projects. In Italy, we have an important share of maritime transportation, and trade is mainly possible thanks to the use of the Mediterranean and the port of Gioia Tauro specifically. I myself believe that the sea is to be maintained, is to be kept free, because if you maintain and you guarantee freedom in the sea, freedom to trade, there will be no space for weapons. When we speak about Middle East, it is impossible to neglect Balkan areas, a priority for our country that we put at the core of our discussion and the European discussion. This is the reason why I wanted to invite Balkan countries to join us in these Mediterranean dialogues. Our goal is to join our two histories to foster path towards peace and the different missions that we have activated and that we have been leading, also thanks to the Italian tax police that is working in Balkan area. We have promoted a new approach that is aimed at creating partnerships to ensure health, agriculture, and development. And these activities will be focused in Africa through the implementation of the Mattei Plan that is already giving us feedbacks. Italian priority is to ensure the growth of a continent that is going to deal with 2.5 billion people in the next coming years. We are investing resources to ensure education. And this is the reason why we have granted funds for the education of African youth. In doing so, we are going to create jobs and we are going to ensure education. And we will do so also thanks to the private sector. As Benedetto, as the Pope was saying, to emigrate is to actually ensure one's right. We are today here to ensure the peace in the Middle East, but at the same time, we have to look at Ukraine. A couple of days ago, the calendar reminded us of the sad anniversary of 1,000 days since the beginning of the war in the Ukrainian area. And on that occasion, we met with our head of governments in order to work to ensure peace, just peace. In reaching this goal, we are going to support dialogues. We want to bring Moscow to the cooperation dialogues. We are working to support the reconstruction of Ukraine, and we are working to ensure the use of electricity for Ukrainian people. The Italian government has reiterated its support to the electric grid in Ukraine. It has reiterated its commitment since the signing of the agreement and the memorandum of understanding signed in Munich in February 2024. We are going to start working for the reconstruction of those areas. Dear colleagues, Mediterranean dialogues have an important goal. Our discussion will open the G7 through the inputs you will provide, and these inputs will be crucial for our activity. We want to be ready to ensure dialogue for growth. We will do so with pride, as the Italian foreign affairs have always been targeted toward dialogues and new channels of dialogues, and you are our main stakeholders. Thank you and have a fruitful day.
Ayman Safadi, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Jordan, is now invited to the podium.
أيمن صفدي نائب رئيس الوزراء الأردني ووزير الخارجية والشؤون المغتربين الأردني.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. President, dear Antonio, dear colleagues, good morning to you all. And I'm grateful for the Italian Foreign Ministry and for SP for convening this conference at a time, as the President of SP described, a very challenging time for the region, a time of peril, a time of despair. And he said convening this conference was a choice. And I think getting out of the miserable reality that the region is living now is also a choice that we all have to make for the sake of our people, for the sake of our region, for the sake of peace, stability, and security for all. It has become more challenging for any of us, I guess, to speak at such forum, because everything that needs to be said has been said. What has been missing is action to translate our collective message of peace into a reality, and so that we can get over the misery of war and destruction that have haunted the region, not just for a year, but for decades, if we are to look at the comprehensive picture. Do we describe the situation? I think a year into the conflict in Gaza, everybody who wants to know what's happening is brutally aware of what's happening in Gaza. But it's simply over a year of aggression in Gaza has destroyed a whole community. Gaza is now a graveyard for children, a graveyard for human values, a graveyard for international law. Israel has killed over 40,000 Palestinians, destroyed schools, hospitals, infrastructure. UNRWA today just warned of the fact that over 500,000 Palestinians in Gaza now will suffer from floods as the rainy season begins and the sewage system and pipeline system has been destroyed. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz has reported that Jabalia, once the largest refugee camp in Gaza, has now been reduced to rubble. It is uninhabitable, it said. So this is the reality of misery that we have. Move to the West Bank. Even before October 7, all horizons for peace were closed. Settlements, confiscation of land, eviction of people from their homes, denial of the need to move forward with a peace plan have destroyed hope and have killed what took years of effort in terms of building people's belief in the viability of peace. Move to Lebanon, again. We have a conflict, we have a war that continues in Lebanon. There are news now of a possible ceasefire. We all hope and pray that this ceasefire will be realized, because the absence of it will mean more destruction and more war and more animosity and more dehumanization and more hatred and more bitterness, which will doom the future of the region to more conflict and more killing and more destruction. Syria, the world has come to live with status quo politics. As long as the crisis is not affecting everybody else, global actors as it were, then we can live with the crisis. But the cost of that is that millions of people have been displaced, millions of people have been living in poverty. Terrorism is thriving again, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking is also emerging. This is the reality of the Middle East, despite the fact that, as the President of ISPI said, this is a region that has a tremendous promise with its multiculturalism, its rich history, its rich human talent. We can make it a better place. But how do we make it a better place? By simply achieving peace, a peace that will allow everybody in the region to live in security, in dignity, with hope, with opportunity. And how do we move about bringing that peace? And I think the answer is simple. On the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, we in the Arab world have been ready for peace. Our Arab Peace Initiative goes back to the year 2002. We want a just and lasting peace that will guarantee the security of Israel and guarantee the security of everybody in the region and fulfill the rights of the Palestinian people to freedom and statehood. Live and let live. That is what we're putting on the table. Because war, as history has shown, will not bring about security, will not bring about peace, will not bring about prosperity, will not allow us all to tackle the challenges that are denying our young people the future that they deserve. How could a war that has denied 650,000 kids in Gaza their right to go to school is going to produce peace? Now, Lebanon has also decided that all schools in Beirut will be closed for the year because schools have been turned into shelters. How is this going to guarantee security for Israel, or guarantee security for the Palestinians, or guarantee security for our region? These are the fundamental questions that need to be addressed. So our proposal in Jordan, and Jordan has been at the receiving end of every crisis in the region. And therefore, when we speak of peace because we know the consequences of the absence of peace, not just on us, but on the whole region. What are our priorities for now? If I am to set them in order of priorities based on the impact of the current situation, we need an end of the aggression in Gaza and Lebanon. We need a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire that will stop the killing, stop the destruction, and restore a sense of normalcy to life. And after that, we need to launch a massive humanitarian effort to address the humanitarian catastrophe that exists there in Gaza. And we in Jordan have been ready, we've been working to send as much aid as we can into Gaza, send food, send milk formula, send whatever, bread, flour, anything. And we can surge our humanitarian effort, but for that to happen, we need the crossing points to open. And His Majesty was very clear that Jordan is ready to launch a humanitarian bridge, aerial bridge, a land bridge, to send as much aid as we can to Gaza. And we're ready to do that, and we're grateful for the support that our partners have shown in this effort. And my dear friend Antonio mentioned to the cooperation between Jordan and Italy on that. And then we need to start looking at the broader picture. How do we make sure that this misery does not happen again? And for that not to happen again, we need to look at the root cause of the conflict. And the root cause of a conflict is that there is an occupation that has yet to show any signs of ending. On the contrary, it is being consolidated. So the peace that we put on the table is a peace that would, as I said, fulfill the rights of the Palestinian people to statehood, fulfill Israel's right to security, and we all in the region, as we've said, we are willing to collectively guarantee the security of Israel in the context of a peace that ends occupation and allows for the establishment of a sovereign, viable, independent Palestinian state on the basis of the two-state solution, June 4, 1967, lines with East Jerusalem as capital. If we do that, then we will have solved the biggest problem in the region, because everything else is one way or the other a function of this conflict. If you bring about that Palestinian-Israeli peace, then the whole region will start addressing the consequences of the failure to achieve that peace for decades, and then we can all come together to address the other challenges that we have. We have a young population that need jobs, that need education. Only if we have peace and we come together, we can provide the opportunity that our young people deserve. And we can start working on that. We can start addressing the challenge of unemployment. That is a huge challenge for all of us in the region. We can start addressing the challenges of environment, climate change, cooperation, all of these things. For that to happen, we need to have peace. And then we can also start really getting global actors with regional actors together to address the broader challenges that our region faces. In Europe, there's tremendous concern with migration. And we understand that concern, because we in Jordan, again, as the largest per capita host of refugees in the world, we understand that this is a challenge that must be addressed. But in order for that challenge to be addressed, we need to solve the root causes again of the migration and refugee issues. And we go to Syria, and that means a political solution needs to be implemented immediately. Doubling down on positions that have done nothing but prolonged the crisis for decades is not going to solve the problem. So can we all come together again in an effort to try and bring about a political solution that would end the Syrian crisis on basis that guarantee its sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity, and safety of its people, and move forward? If we do that, we solve the issue of refugees, because we will then have created conditions conducive for refugees to go back to their country, and that again needs global actors to come together with regional actors to do that. The challenge that we're facing is that even before October 7, there has been a kind of normalization with the problems that we have. Let's just manage them. But what the good management was. Before October 7, we were clear in Jordan in warning against the consequences of the absence of peace horizons. I think if you recall His Majesty King Abdullah's speech to the General Assembly in September of last year, where he was unequivocal in warning that unless we restore hope, the region is going to explode. And exploded dead in ways that have shamed all of us, because we've been unable solve that challenge thus far. So we cannot just normalize with conflict. We cannot agree to management of conflict. So we've got to be honest with each other. We've got to say that the security of the Middle East is key to the security of Europe. As you said, Antonio, we are one region, and this region needs to come together. And I think we need to have clarity on what we need to do. We need to start again, move from the mode of crisis management into crisis resolution. And for doing that, you have partners in the region. As I said, we in the Arab world are ready, willing, able to work with everybody to bring about, on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, to bring about a just peace that guarantees the rights of the Palestinians and the security of Israel, because they go hand in hand. We do fully understand that unless the Palestinians' rights fully are fulfilled, and unless Israel's right to security is fulfilled, we'll never have that peace that we all deserve. And then, as I said, we move on other crises, whether in Lebanon, whether in Syria, whether in other parts of the world, and we come together and move forward. Other than that, my friends, I think we're all looking at the immediate impact of the conflict. Very few are looking at the longer-term impact of the conflict. We in Jordan, being in the region, we have to look at the longer-term impact. And the biggest challenge that we're going to have is how are we going to navigate the bitterness, the dehumanization, the anger, the hatred that have come out of this conflict. Unless we're able to put an alternative, unless we're able to put a solution, unless we're able to restore hope, we will not be able to do that, and the region will be doomed to more conflict. What we're asking for is fairness. What we're asking for is implementation of international law equally, regardless of the race and balance of power of the parties to the conflict. What we're asking for is respecting our humanitarian values, and what we're asking for is for all of us to come together with clarity on what needs to be done to bring about peace to our region, so that we can all come together and addressing the biggest challenge of making life better for all our peoples in all its dimensions. We cannot wait no more. We cannot just pay lip service to solutions anymore, including the two-state solution. We have to act, and we have to act now, because failure to act is making every day worse than the day before it, whether in terms of humanitarian suffering, in terms of respect for international law, in terms of how people see each other, south versus north. That divide is deepening, and we've got to bridge it before it is too late. So my call here is a call that Jordan has always made. Let us come together. Let's make sure that we end conflicts, end the suffering, end discrimination in terms of the application of international law, and move on a track that will guarantee peace and prosperity for all our regions, so that we can again rise up to the challenge of building a better future for all our people. Thank you so much.
Subramanyam Jaishankar, Minister of External Affairs of India, is now invited to the podium.
Your Excellency, President Mattarella, Excellency Vice President and Foreign Minister Tajani, Mr. Franco Bruni, colleagues, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be back at the Mediterranean Dialogue. Allow me to offer some thoughts on the key themes of this meeting. The first point is on the relevance of India to the Mediterranean. Our annual trade with the Mediterranean nations is about $80 billion. We have a diaspora here of 460,000, about 40% of that in Italy. Our key interests are in fertilizers, energy, water technology, diamonds, defense, and cyber. India has significant projects underway as airports, ports, railway, steel, green hydrogen, phosphates, and submarine cables. Our political relations with the Mediterranean are strong, and our defense collaboration is growing, including more exercises and exchanges. Let me now shift to the Middle East and present India's interest there. Our trade with the Gulf alone is in the range of $160 to $180 billion annually. The rest of MENA adds about another $20 billion. More than 9 million Indians live and work in the Middle East. Whether it is energy, technology, industrial projects, or services, we have big stakes. It is also a region to which we are connected in history, culture, and security. For these very reasons, you may expect India's presence and activities to grow, especially as we move from being the 5th largest economy in the world to the 3rd. The Mediterranean presents both opportunities and risks in an uncertain and volatile world. Beyond extrapolating current trends, the new element of our relationship will be connectivity. The IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, that was announced in September 2020, can be a game changer. The conflict underway currently in the Middle East has undoubtedly been a major complication, but it is proceeding, the IMEC is proceeding ahead on the eastern side, especially between India and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. I also flag your attention to the I2U2 grouping of India, Israel, UAE, and the US, expected to be more active in times to come. That said, we all recognize that the world is experiencing severe stress. Two major conflicts are underway. Supply chains are insecure. Connectivity, especially maritime, stands disrupted. Climate events are more extreme and frequent, and the COVID pandemic has left deep scars. Today, I focus my remarks on the conflicts. The situation in the Middle East is obviously deeply concerning, both for what has happened and what may still come. India unequivocally condemns terrorism and hostage-taking. It also regards large-scale civilian casualties in military operations to be unacceptable. International humanitarian law cannot be disregarded. In immediate terms, we should all support a ceasefire. India has also extended relief directly and through UNRWA. In the longer term, it is imperative that the future of the Palestinian people be addressed. India favors a two-state solution. Our concerns have also been increasing on the widening of the conflict. We have been in regular touch with both Israel and Iran at the highest levels to advocate restraint and enhance communication. Where Lebanon is concerned, there is an Indian contingent, like Italy, as part of UNIFIL. With regard to the Gulf of Aden and the Northern Arabian Sea, Indian naval ships have been deployed since last year to protect commercial shipping. Given our capacity to engage various parties, we are always willing to contribute meaningfully to any international diplomatic endeavors. Addressing the conflict in Ukraine is the other urgent imperative of our times. It is well into its 3rd year. The continuation of this conflict has serious destabilizing consequences, including for the Mediterranean. What is clear is that no solution is going to emerge from the battlefield. India has consistently held the view that disputes in this era cannot be settled by war. There must be a return to dialogue and diplomacy. The sooner, the better. This is a widespread sentiment in the world today, especially in the global south. Since June this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has personally engaged leaders of both Russia and Ukraine to this end. This has included his visiting Moscow and Kiev. Our senior officials remain in continuous touch. We firmly believe that those who have the ability to explore finding common ground must step up to that responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, we are today on the threshold of a new era. It is one of re-globalizing, rebalancing, and multipolarity. It is also a more technology-centered future with a premium on mobility of talent and greener growth. Opportunities in this world are as indivisible as anxieties. A closer and stronger relationship between India and the Mediterranean will serve both of us well. I thank you for your attention.
Abdallah Bouhabib, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Emigrants of Lebanon, is now invited to the podium.
Your Excellency, President Sergio Mattarella, dear colleague Antonio Tajani, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Marco Bruni, ladies and gentlemen. Europe and the Middle East are geographically interlinked and share a long history and overlapping interests. The two regions have experienced eras of peace, prosperity, and cooperation. Both have also faced challenges, frictions, and clashes. The only constant, however, is that they have affected each other with fortunes and misfortunes. When one of them sneezes, the other catches the cold. In a globalized world, there is a strong opportunity to coordinate, cooperate, and thrive together. Located at the crossroad between different civilizations and cultures, Lebanon has always been a bridge between Europe and the Middle East. Lebanon is now facing multi-layer military, economic, political, and social challenges. An effective Europe support is essential and of common interest. Lebanon believes that the efforts of peacekeeping forces, UNIFIL, operating in its south is essential and vital for bringing about peace. Lebanese are grateful that 17 European countries are an integral and essential part in UNIFIL. In that regard, Lebanon strongly condemns any attack on UNIFIL and calls on all sides to respect the safety, security of the troops and their premises. Moreover, Lebanon condemns recent attack on the Italian contingent and deplores such unjustified hostilities. UNIFIL is a bridge of cooperation between Lebanon and international legitimacy. Small countries like Lebanon seek shelter under the umbrella of the United Nations and its institutions to shield themselves from external greed and aggressions. The attacks, killing, destruction, and displacement of about 1.5 million Lebanese makes us more determined to seek the support of the international community to overcome the challenges we face. The assistance of the Friends of Lebanon is instrumental for recovery and rebound. The Lebanese aspire for a strong state that defends their rights, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. The prevailing conviction of policymakers in the post-independence area, that was 1943, was that Lebanon's strength lies in its weakness. If Lebanon is not a threat to its neighborhood, then no one would threaten us. Consequently, the failure to implement United Nations resolutions to create a Palestinian state had a spillover effect on Lebanon starting the mid-60s. Ever since, our efforts to build strong military and security institutions did not materialize. For this to happen, we need your support to build armed and security forces to defend and protect our territories. The prevailing challenges require collective national and international efforts to build robust Lebanese security apparatus. Our main goal is to empower the legitimate national authority as the guarantor for security and peace. In this context, symmetrical and full implementation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 is the gate for stability. Lebanon is ready to fulfill its obligations stipulated in the above-mentioned resolution. This literally means, and I quote, there will be no weapons without the consent of the government of Lebanon and no authority other than that of the government of Lebanon, end of quote. To realize the objectives, the Lebanese government realizes that two necessary conditions are required: an immediate ceasefire and deployment of additional Lebanese troops south of the Litani River. Once the above are realized, and in cooperation with UNIFIL, Lebanon will be able to extend its authority over its territory. We reiterate Lebanon's commitment to peace and security in our region, and we will call for a safe return of the displaced to their villages and towns on both sides of the borders. Nevertheless, permanent and sustainable security and peace on the Lebanese-Israeli border necessitates ending Israel's occupation of Lebanese territories. Otherwise, continuous occupation will generate resistance and potentially future conflicts. In conclusion, I invite Europe to strengthen our historic partnership. Europe has friends on the other side of the Mediterranean, including Lebanon. We look forward to working with European partners to build a Mediterranean basin of peace, justice, and prosperities. Let's join hands to overcome instability and conflicts, and thank you and best wishes for a successful forum.
Badr Abdelati, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, is now invited to the podium.
Thank you so much, His Excellency President Sergio Mattarella, President of the Italian Republic, the Honorable Antonio Tajani, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister and the International Cooperation of the Italian Republic, Mr. Franco Bruni, the President of the Italian Institute for International Political Studies, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to begin by expressing my gratitude to the Italian government and the organizers of the Rome Mediterranean Dialogues Forum. The convening of the forum's 10th edition reflects its significance as a vital platform for addressing political, security, economic, and social issues of our mutual concerns, with the overarching goal of achieving security, stability, and development in our Mediterranean region and beyond. Our region the cradle of civilizations, now stands at a crossroads, grappling with numerous challenges that demand bold measures and decisive actions. This is especially urgent given the serious threats to peace and regional stability and security, especially in the Middle East, including the ongoing conflict and the current aggressions by Israel and Gaza, which is now extending for more than a year, and the unacceptable and condemned continuous Israeli aggression and daily violations of the Lebanese sovereignty. This year's forum convenes, as you all know, amid a relentless war on Palestinian people in Gaza and in the West Bank. Despite over a year of repeated appeals to the international community to intervene and stop these attacks and the aggressions, which is threatening the security of the region and the world, the military Israeli machinery continues its tragic toll on innocent lives, most of them women and children. In this context, I wish to reaffirm Egypt's vision for ending this vicious cycle of violence and this aggression. This vision is rooted in several key principles. Chief among them is, of course, an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and in Lebanon, the release of hostages and detainees in the Gaza Strip, also the unhindering access for humanitarian aid and the initiation of a serious and genuine political process which leading to the acknowledgement and the realization of the Palestinian viable state on the lines of the 4th of June 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital. Let me therefore assure you of Egypt's unwavering commitments to its efforts aimed at de-escalation in the Middle East and achieving a just and lasting peace among its people. I would like also to refer to our intention in Egypt to convene a ministerial conference on mobilizing international aid to Gaza that will be convened in Cairo on the 2nd of December. Also, I would like to refer to our continuous efforts in order to put an end to the Israeli aggression on Lebanon. Esteemed attendees, I am confident that we are all agree that Mediterranean region is full of opportunities and resources that must be harnessed within a framework of genuine partnership in order to achieve our shared objectives, particularly in the realms of security, economic development. On this occasion, I reiterate Egypt's readiness and steadfast commitments to its leadership role in supporting all efforts aimed at addressing our shared challenges, ensuring that this region becomes a beacon of security, stability, prosperity, and progress. In this regard, I would like to focus on three key issues given the limited time available for my remarks. The first is the issue of migration, which is a top priority for many Mediterranean countries, including our host country, Italy. Egypt remains committed to combating irregular migration through a comprehensive approach that addresses its root causes, incorporating developmental and investment dimensions, and promoting regular migration pathways. I would like also to highlight Egypt's successful efforts in curbing and stopping all kinds of irregular and illegal migration flows from Egypt's coasts and borders since September 2016. Furthermore, Egypt hosts more than 9.5 million refugees in Egypt who are enjoying access to all basic services like Egyptians, including healthcare, including education, and we will continue to contributing to elevate the suffering of our guests in Egypt. The second issue relates to cooperation in the field of energy. One of the most critical areas of collaboration among countries of our region. This includes both traditional sources of energy as well as renewable and clean energy. Egypt is designating itself as a hub for production and export of renewable energy as well as clean energy, including green hydrogen. We have two major projects of electricity interconnectivity with Europe, one through Greece with 3,000 megawatt interconnectivity project, and another one with Italy with the same capacity. So, Egypt also is hosting the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, and we will continue to contribute to advancing efforts to ensure security, energy security, which is a cornerstone of regional stability and security in the Mediterranean region. The third point, as my dear friend Antonio Tajani mentioned, is the issue of the Red Sea and the escalation in the Red Sea. This is extremely dangerous issue for the freedom of navigation, and maybe Egypt is the most affected country with the escalation in the Red Sea region. Egypt is losing every month more than $600 million. The total loss of Egypt now since the eruption of the conflict is exceeding $8 billion due to the decrease of the revenue of the Suez Canal. In conclusion, I wish to renew my thanks to the Italian government for organizing this timely forum at such a critical time. I hope that its discussions over the coming 2 days will yield actionable ideas that will bolster our collective efforts to achieve security and prosperity for our peoples and future generations. Let me conclude by reiterating that military supremacy will not bring peace and stability to Israel and to our neighborhood. Only acknowledging the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people and the Lebanese people and the peoples of our region through coexistence, through respecting international law and international humanitarian law. This is the only way out to bring enduring peace and stability to Israel and to the region. Thank you so much.
Reem Ebrahim Al-Hashimi, Minister of State for International Cooperation of the United Arab Emirates, is now invited to the podium.
Mr. President of the Italian Republic, His Excellency Sergio Mattarella, Your Excellency, my dear friend Antonio Tajani, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to participate in the 10th edition of the Rome Med Dialogue, a forum that has truly distinguished itself as one of the most prominent platforms for discussing strategies that aim to foster greater stability and prosperity, not only in Europe, but also in the Mediterranean region and across the entire world. This is especially timely at a moment when we face numerous ongoing conflicts and challenges that demand urgent attention. I'd like to thank the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and the Italian Institute for International Political Studies for their gracious hospitality and for organizing such an impressive event. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues, all of us here today share a commitment to a future of stability and peace. However, the past few years have been exceptionally challenging for all of us, engendering a perpetual cycle of violence and a perpetual cycle of global crises. For us in the Middle East, particularly over in this past year, we've witnessed an alarming escalation of interconnected security and political crises. These crises have had dire humanitarian effects, overwhelming the capacities of diplomacy and the region to respond effectively. After more than a year of devastating war in Gaza, we're meeting today against the backdrop of growing military conflicts in the Middle East with recent attacks on Israel, Lebanon, Iran, Syria, and Yemen. The risk of an all-out military confrontation looms large. In this context, I want to re-emphasize that we must also focus our efforts on humanitarian intervention, particularly amongst the most vulnerable. Children, the elderly, women are all civilians bearing the brunt of these conflicts, and we must protect them all. The stability and future of all of our societies are at stake, because every day of this conflict, every escalation of violence erases the promise of a better tomorrow for the next generation. The most urgent priority now must be to reach an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and in Lebanon, to lift all obstacles to humanitarian aid and to protect civilians. We cannot afford to ignore the long-term effects of this violence. You've heard it so eloquently from His Excellency Ayman Safadi. No one is speaking of these long-term impacts that will take generations at least to unravel. These victims deserve to grow up in a world where peace, stability, and hope are not just ideals, but are actually practical realities. For us in the UAE, we endeavor to support all the efforts to end conflict. And we've also placed alongside our foreign policy, and at the forefront of that, the necessity of humanitarian aid. In Gaza, the UAE has emerged as the largest donor of bilateral humanitarian aid globally. We have left no stone unturned in our efforts to provide essential support and alleviate the suffering of those in dire need. Our commitment to humanitarian aid reflects our unwavering dedication to peace and stability, despite how hard it is to get there. Our determination to make a tangible difference in the lives of those most affected is unwavering. I'm emphasizing the importance of humanitarian action because we must recognize that humanitarian consideration is not a secondary objective during periods of political turmoil. They must be non-negotiable and integrated into the very fabric of every decision-making process. Ladies and gentlemen, on Europe's eastern flank, as the war in Ukraine continues, the human toll is rising and critical infrastructure is being destroyed. In the Emirates, we've always stressed that in the interest of the international system, the war in Ukraine can only be resolved through a political dialogue. Continued escalation will only deepen the suffering faced by civilians and risk wider instability. At the same time, I must emphasize there are tens, if not hundreds, of conflicts ongoing around the world that are not receiving the attention that they deserve. These crises, though often overlooked, continue to inflict tremendous suffering and contribute to global instability. We must recognize that all such conflicts, regardless of their location, demand our equal attention and focus. Once again, we are at that critical juncture where decisions that we make today in 2024 can very well shape the future of an entire generation. We must act with urgency and work collaboratively to build that more stable and peaceful world. Ladies and gentlemen, as we look ahead, it's crucial that we strengthen existing platforms for dialogue and collaboration to explore innovative ideas and perspectives. To foster opportunity and drive economic growth, the international community must also prioritize stability and build trust against a backdrop of significant trust deficit. Achieving economic progress and expanding prosperity depends also on creating the conditions for that lasting peace and security. These conditions will be key to addressing our urgent global challenges, including the climate crisis, food insecurity, and other critical issues related to security, the environment, as well as technology. The path forward requires collective action to ensure that stability underpins our efforts to tackle these challenges and secure a better future for all. In the United Arab Emirates, we strive and continue to build bridges of dialogue to strengthen the multilateral system and to encourage economic and diplomatic cooperation wherever and whenever possible. We also have a national interest in expanding our presence in new areas, as demonstrated by our increased focus in digital technology and also in artificial intelligence. While navigating a complex and tense political environment, the UAE firmly believes that progress must and will continue. In these extraordinary times, we recognize that addressing regional challenges while simultaneously building for the future is essential. Today, the Mediterranean stands again at that center, a middle ground for both Europe and its neighboring partners to work together and create the peace and prosperity that all our countries and citizens deserve. Business as usual is no longer sufficient. We must adapt and innovate in the face of unprecedented challenges to ensure a more stable and prosperous future for all. Thank you for your time and attention.
Ahmed Aboulgate, Secretary General of the League of Arab States, is now invited to the podium.
President Mattarella, allow me please to speak in Arabic since I am the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, so it is imperative on me to speak the language of the region, more or less. فخامة الرئيس سيرجيو ماتاريلا.
Your Excellency, President Mattarella, President of Republic, distinguished delegates, it could be the sixth time that I participate to the Med Dialogue. I would like to thank Italy for their warm welcoming and for the invitation, and I would like to thank them for transforming this forum into a space, a serious space full of life and dialogue among all the partners of the Mediterranean region, not to mention inviting other countries that participated to shaping our future. We are talking about our sea, the Mediterranean Sea, as the Romans during the Roman Empire used to consider as important. Today, it's our sea, it's a common sea. We are sharing the coastlines of this sea. We are a multilateral and multicultural area, and this sea has always been the cradle of all culture and commercial trades. Of course, not it's not alien to anybody that today we are facing a very tough challenge in the region, and we are all fearing and we're all worried about the future of coexistence among all the populations, especially between Jews and Arabs. His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy, spoke about that. If there is a morale we should extract from what happened, and after 416 days of a genocidal war that Israel launched against Palestinians, and it still continues until today, we can deduce that we could not rely on the current situation. The status quo could not persist. It is a mirage that we're seeing in front of us. On the surface, we see a stability. However, in the center, it is based on despair, on deprivation of dignity. Therefore, for decades to come, we are afraid of the bloodshed. Please do not forget what I'm saying. The status quo is nothing but an alarming bell of a future bloodshed that would last for decades. However, the brutality of the Israeli occupation is trying to achieve whatever it can on its agenda. It would like to go back to the 7th of October, meaning before the aggression. The 7th of October, I personally condemn many of its aspects. We must not forget, however, that there is an occupation that lasts for more than 75 years. Please do not forget this detail. This occupation has lasted for the past 75 years. There is an illusion that Israel always tried to portray to us that everything was perfect before the 7th of October, that its bloodshed of today against Gaza, against Lebanon, is to go back to the previous situation before the 7th of October. However, it is dehumanizing everything we knew today. And we all saw the cost of the persistence of the occupation. More than 43,000 killed in Gaza. More than thousands of schools, mosques, hospitals, and infrastructure that was completely destroyed. Everything is rubble today. This is the price of the occupation that the Palestinians are now paying as a price for their future. They are paying it in the West Bank, in Gaza, on a daily basis, every hour, just so Israel could re-establish its own occupation over the Palestinian territories. Do you realize, or are you noticing that all the time I am repeating the word occupation? Occupation is crucial for everybody because we must not forget that there is an occupation. Can the world bear the brunt of this occupation, especially what is happening based on apartheid in the Palestinian territories? This is the question that we must ask ourselves. And we must reply to this question with honesty and decency and self-consciousness. I will say clearly to you that this occupation could not persist. But this occupation fed until today on apartheid, on killing on a daily basis, because there is no other way to subject Palestinians that are refusing the Israeli occupation and those Palestinians that refuse to recognize the sovereignty of Israel on the Palestinian territories, but through violence. No one should forget that there are 7 million Palestinians that are living under the occupation. I repeat, 7 million Palestinians, in addition to almost 2 million Palestinians that are living in the Israeli territories. The 7 October event did not happen in the West Bank. However, the West Bank has been for the past year subjected to a continuous aggression, systematic killing, land confiscation, arbitrary detention, not to mention other heinous crimes. Do not forget also the settlers. We all know what they're doing. We are following the news. There is a constant inciting of violence from the settlers against the Palestinians. We must deeply think about the ideology that moved these settlers to incite on violence. Israel, unfortunately, is trying to swallow every Palestinian land, all of it. Israel possesses today 82% of the historic Palestine, from the river to the sea, to the Mediterranean Sea. This Mediterranean Sea that we all share. And only 18% remain for the Palestinians. Even those 18% of the Palestinian territories, Israel is trying to get them under the pretext of self-defense. I repeat, under the pretext of self-defense. Again, please, I would like to remind you of this rhetoric. This is the future agenda of Israel. The persistence of the occupation, taking more land, imposing the Israeli narrative on the ground on a huge number of Palestinians in return of their recognition of the Israeli sovereignty. It is an unacceptable situation. Before I conclude my speech, I would like to tackle a personal point that reflects. So I would like to tackle a personal point that reflects our vision for the future. I was a member of the Egyptian delegation that went to Camp David negotiations in September 1978 with President Anwar Sadat. I might have been the youngest of the delegation members at the time, and I was also a member of the Egyptian delegation for the negotiations of Madrid in 1991. I also participated throughout the years to many official delegations to establish this effort for peace. Then I was, for 7 years, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I worked hardly and persistently in the process of peacemaking. And honestly, I was and I'm still convinced in this peace process. And I do believe that there should be peace between Israel and the Arabs. This conviction, it's a personal conviction that I strive to arrive to. However, what is happening today, and despite my full conviction that the Palestinians will be able to gain their right, their birthright to establish a sovereign state of Palestine, however, I am deeply worried on the future of the relation between the Palestinians, the Israelis, and the other Arab populations, and all the other countries that support Israel. The objective should be peaceful coexistence and peaceful collaboration. However, there should be no hindrance for the presence of a Palestinian state and an Israeli state that coexist in peace and security through economic trade and through establishment of peace and security. However, the Arab nation or even the Arab states will never accept the so-called peace while forgetting the rights of the Palestinians. This is something that we will never accept, and thank you for your kind attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, the opening ceremony is now over. Please remain seated as the head of state leaves the room. Si prega i gentili ospiti di rimanere ai propri posti per consentire l'uscita del capo dello Stato. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as the head of state leaves the room.
That there will be a future and hope that one day there will be peace with a two-state solution.
Impegniamo e ci impegneremo a favore della pesca dei sud.
Occorre por fine alla catena di azioni e reazioni.
Ladies and gentlemen, the two following sessions in Plenary 1 and Plenary 2 will begin shortly.